Hello, and welcome to this special author chat for the Fantasy and Sci-Fi Spotlight event that's happening in Shrewsbury on September 29th at the Nerdy Cafe. I'm Frasier Armitage, part-time robot, full-time nerd, and joining me today is not just an amazing author, but it's also the organizer of the Fantasy and Sci-Fi Spotlight. It is Commander-in-Chief and author extraordinaire, HL Tinsley. Holly, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you very much. I am very excited about being here on this channel, which you have been doing immense work on over the last few weeks. So thank you very much for that.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And it's great to sort of meet some of the authors who are going to be at the event in advance and for to give people an idea as to what they can expect. And I guess that's my first question for you, Holly, is what can people expect from the fantasy and sci-fi spotlight?
They can expect lots and lots of nerdy good stuff is the answer to that one. Yeah, we've been really excited about organising this event. It all sort of came about quite quickly. So we went from sitting down and having this initial idea of, oh, wouldn't it be nice to put together a little event for authors and readers to, oh, so now we've got a venue and we've got a website. So the last month and a half has been absolute bedlam in the Tinsley household. So it's myself and my husband who have decided to do this event. So I'm approaching it as a writer, he's approaching it as a reader, and it's been really nice for us to work together on setting it up. So in terms of the event itself, it is being held in Shrewsbury, which is an amazing, amazing town. If people have never been there before, it is absolutely steeped in history. It is so inspirational. It is the home place of Charles Darwin, which is an exciting fact people may not know about. Nothing to do with the event, but is exciting to know. And it's essentially bringing together, loads of the best indie authors, loads of exciting creatives, artists, comic book writers, horror, fantasy, sci-fi, having some great conversations, meeting some great people. People can buy books, which is always a good thing as well, and hopefully just put that. I mean, it's essentially putting that spotlight, isn't it, on the writing and the indie community, which is sorely needed.
Absolutely. And I feel like there's such a there's such a vast amount of interest in sci-fi and fantasy within Shropshire itself. And it seems crazy that this is something that has never really been done before. How has it been sort of setting up something completely new for just this area that we both live in and that we both love?
I mean, you're absolutely right. There's certainly within the reading and writing community plenty of amazing events that people can go to. So we've got WorldCon, there's BristolCon, you've got all sorts of like individual things going on. However, when I started looking at kind of the earlier months, the start of the year. See, I'm so good with words. When I started looking at the start of the year for events to go to, I was finding that it was always the same events coming up when I asked people about them, which is great because that means those events are really popular and obviously people want to get into them. However, it does mean that they fill up really quickly. So, by the time I was looking in kind of January, February, there was no spaces anywhere in any of the Comic Cons, in all of the big towns. So I started looking for local events and found that there were none. And there was an audience for it because I was seeing people online, but not really anywhere for them to gather and talk and discuss ideas. So I had a chat with Phil Williams, who's an author I speak to quite a lot, because we both, I think he lives down south. I spend a lot of time around the Brighton area. And I said to him, are there any events that I can get into in Brighton, Sussex area? And he said, well, actually, no, we seem to have the same issue, is that, there's not really any of these smaller network local events to go to. So I sent out a couple of emails to some local bookstores, some local cafes, and just said that I've noticed that there's a big demand. There's loads of writers in the area. There's loads of readers in the area, but there is nowhere at the moment for them to really have these kind of connections and engagements. And the Nerdy Cafe came back to me and said, we'd be really interested in discussing this. We think it's a great idea. Why don't you come down for a meeting? So I spent a couple of days planning out what I was going to say to them and how I was going to explain this idea of mine. And I wrote loads of notes in a notepad. And I went down and we had a 2-minute conversation where I said, I want to get a bunch of authors, a bunch of readers in a room to talk about sci-fi and fantasy. And they went, yeah, we're in 100%.
That's epic. I love it. I also love the fact that you have kind of gone from like, okay, I'm looking for an event that I want to go to. I'm looking for somewhere that I can attend, finding nothing and going like, do you know what? Let's just do one. It's like that is such an indie approach to like getting this set up. I absolutely love it. How have you found the experience of it when it comes to getting a roster put up? Because I guess booking the venue is one thing, but then getting the authors sort of involved. What's been that experience like?
It's been a fantastic experience, to be honest, and it really hasn't surprised me from having worked on projects with kind of indie authors before. So I did the Anatomy of Fear Kickstarter, that went really well. And I think one of the things with being an indie author is that you often feel like you can't do things. So there's an intrepidation, there's a fear about putting yourself out there and taking a risk on, saying, hey, I've got this idea, let's see how it pans out. But actually, I think you find when you do that, and this is a perfect example, I went from, I can try and do an event, it probably won't work, I don't really know what I'm doing, I don't know who to ask, to so many people coming in and saying, yeah, we want to be a part of it, yeah, we want to help, this is what we can bring to the table. And I think as indie authors, I think quite often we hold ourselves back because we think that there aren't opportunities out there for us. We're not going to be able to go out and beat the big sellers. We're not going to be able to compete with Amazon. But that's only correct if we don't take those chances and we don't try and do these things. So I'm a big believer in that the opportunities that you make for yourself are really important. And we don't have anyone else doing that for us. We have to do it ourselves. So it is a case of, have an idea, see what people think, jump in, take a risk, do it, see if it works out. I'll let you know in September how it goes.
And I think that's the thing. There are so many people who are going to be hearing that and are going to be thinking, "Oh, this is great. I want to get behind it. I want to support it." The best way of supporting it is by attending the event, isn't it? It's by coming down in September, and it's a great place to get to, Shrewsbury, isn't it? For people who are travelling in, it's such a nice day out in itself, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think it would be remiss of me not to say that not just in the indie community and the writer community, but actually in the local community as well, there's already so much love and support for this event. There are so many people who have emailed me. We've got a deal with a local hotel, so if people want to come down and spend the weekend, they can get a discounted room rate. The Nerdy Cafe have been tremendously supportive. We've got local radio hosts who have been reposting things on social media for us. This is something that, yes, it's for the writers, but it's for the readers as well. Excuse me. It's for those people that want to come and enjoy those stories.
Yeah, it's for the fans. That's what it's for. It's for people who are enthusiasts, and it's like it's going to be able to share that love and just have those chats, and it's going to be such a great environment. I'm so looking forward to it. What events are you particularly looking forward to, and which of the authors that you've got involved are you really, really looking forward to sort of helping to, well, meeting and promoting and interacting with when you get to the event?
Oh, that is a very good question. Obviously, the diplomatic answer is to say that I'm equally as excited to see what everybody is going to be bringing. But I think it's exciting that we've got such a diverse range of people for a start. So we've got people right from Emily, who is our special guest, who's coming in to talk about Dex Legacy, who has had so much success with that and won awards and is represented and has been kind of in the gaming industry and the writing industry, right to people who are bringing out like their first book. We've got Ed Crocker coming, who's got his first book coming out next year. So it's a real range, not just of genres, but also of experiences and perspectives as well. In terms of things I'm looking forward to, I don't know how much of the day I'm actually going to be able to take in, but I am really looking forward to. We've actually just added onto the agenda a new talk/workshop, which Lucy Connolly is going to be doing, which is all around historical accuracy in combat and sword fighting skills. I believe we are going to get a bit of a demonstration as well, which is quite exciting. So hopefully there won't be any duels or anything like that. But I always think that, as a fan of historical fantasy, it's always great to hear somebody who has that real life experience of working with these instruments and knowing, how they work, what they do, what tropes not to fall into. So that'll be a good one. What else? We've got loads of really good panels. So I'm really excited about the magic systems and lore in fantasy, purely because I obviously write fantasy, but I tend to steer away from magic systems in my books. It's not something I really approach myself. So I'm really excited to hear the perspectives of the authors. So we've got L.L. McRae, Emma Adams, and Phil Parker on that one, all who write fantastic magic systems. So that's going to be really exciting. I think, if I'm honest, the most exciting thing for me is the messages actually that I'm getting from other people who are coming. So people who have messaged me on Facebook or Twitter saying, oh, I want to start writing. I live locally, but I've never been able to talk to anyone about it. I've never been able to find any guidance on it. I want to come and meet this person. I want to come and talk to this person. And just seeing them excited to come and, interact, engage with people. I had a guy who messaged me the other day saying that they're a huge fan of the Warhammer, the 40k stories, so they're really excited about the fact that we're doing a book event in a nerdy gaming cafe. There's a lot of exciting stuff going on.
Yeah, it's brilliant, and I think that you've got such a massive variety of different events lined up. With regard to like stuff for gamers, stuff for people who are into audio drama, stuff for people who are into novels, stuff for short story writers, and readers. And now there's like going to be people dueling in the nerdy cafe. I mean, that is just it's if you. Are you going to take like a glove and a saber, Holly? Or are you going to sort of keep out of it? Do you think?
I mean, I'm just going to see which of the authors, annoy me most on the day, and then I'll volunteer them to be part of the duel. But, I was sat thinking, we've got this packed agenda where we've got wall-to-wall activities all day. What more does this event need? Swords. That's what it needs.
What event? I mean, it's the one thing that's missing from every other event. Where else are you going to go and be able to talk about sci-fi and fantasy and also see a sword fight? There's just, I mean, it's momentous and history making, but you keep pulling out all the stops, Holly.
This is it. I think, I'm going to have to stop some point and say, do you know what? This is it. Because otherwise we're going to end up with like fireworks going off and, wolf packs running through the tables, Keep it realistic. Keep it realistic.
Yeah. Make sure they're on a leash. When they come, the wolf packs. Yeah, you can't have them just running around the cafe. I mean, health and safety.
Exactly.
So in terms of the way that the day is going to run, you can turn up on the day, but it's better if you pre-book a ticket, right? Because there is a limit to the number of people that can actually get into the cafe. So if people want to do that, where can they go to find out more and to be able to pre-book a ticket?
So the best way to keep up with any updates on tickets or to buy is to check out firstly the website, which is the fantasy and sci-fi spotlight.co.uk, or to follow us on Facebook or on Twitter. So we are updating really regularly on Twitter. We've got a whole load more of announcements to come out this week. We're just waiting on some clarification of a few details. But yeah, follow us on there just to get any updates. And I would say as well, with the tickets, it is best to book in advance, because when we did start this event, although it is epic and it is exciting and it is amazing, we did want to go for a smaller venue. So the Nerdy Cafe does obviously have a limit on how many people can be in it at any one time. So there will be a limited number of on-the-door walk-ins available, but we can't guarantee anything. So obviously, if anyone is travelling for a long distance, we really don't want you to travel down and then not be able to get in. Although obviously Shrewsbury is lovely, so you won't be disappointed either way.
Yeah, excellent. And the website's great. The way it's so easy to navigate, and I'm sure we'll put links in underneath here so that people can get access to it and just click away. But yeah, it's definitely recommended. Get yourself a ticket and come on down. You mentioned earlier that you don't really write magic systems into your books, but you do write amazing fantasy. Are they grimdark gaslamp fantasies? Yours, Holly?
Well, thank you very much. They are, the Gaslamp Grimdark, I think, is probably the best way to describe my general writing style and the genre I go for. So I have two series. I have my Vanguard series, and then I have a standalone called The Hallows. which is slightly different. So the Hallows does lean a little bit more towards the magic. So this is the Hallows here, which I remembered to bring today. I did not remember to bring Vanguard, however. But yeah, the the Hallows is more whimsical, dark urban fantasy. It's like 1920s aesthetic, and it's more focused on almost like a detective story. So those kind of very cool noir style, old-fashioned detectives. Whereas Vanguard is very much a low fantasy, gaslamp, grim dark, where there's blood and guts and everyone is terrible. It's a great book. Really happy.
Yeah, you're what made you what? Because I know that you've had good success with your Vanguard Chronicles. You were a finalist in, is it Spiffbo? How do you pronounce Spiffbo? Is it Spiffbo? Is it Spuffbo? Is it SPFBO? What, the seventh one? You were.
It depends on what camp you fall into. So I'm definitely in the Spiffbo camp. That's how I say it.
So yeah, Spiffbo 7. You were a finalist for one of the Vanguard books, right? So what was it like, sort of putting something out there into the world and then seeing it sort of get such awesome love?
I mean, it was amazing. I think my approach to Vanguard, my first book, was very business-like. It was very methodical and planned out. And since then, all of my other book launches have been a little bit more haphazard, a bit like, it'll be fine. But yeah, I think because that one, I put, good, not just writing the book itself, but then a good 6 months into networking, engagement, promoting, trying to meet the right people and put it in the right places, to have that then go through to the SBFBO. So this is why I say Spiffo final was really amazing, because to me it felt like it was not just recognizing the book but also the work that had been put into it. So yeah, it was an amazing, really emotional experience that I am very proud of. And yeah, I still have my little Spiffbo medallion, which is up on my bookshelf just next to my wedding photo, because obviously, two most important things that have ever happened to me. Not going to say which one is more important than the other, but yeah.
I think we all know, Holly. Yeah. How is it going to compare, do you think, being at the Fantasy and Sci-Fi Spotlight event to getting that medal?
I think it would depend on how many people turn up for a start. So, I think from the start of this, we've been quite realistic in that this is a brand new event and we are doing our absolute best to promote and to encourage people and to get engagement for it. But it will be what it will be on the day. And it's very much a case of we're going to learn what we can from it. We're going to take the successes from it. We're going to take the mistakes, which, are bound to happen from it, and try and build on that. So for us, the success will be measured in whether or not we do another one afterwards, or whether we just think, oh God, no, never again. But also in how much the people who do come enjoy it, what they think of it, what they think we could do better. So yeah, I think this feels like the first step in the journey, rather than the event itself will be the end result, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, I mean, you've mentioned about it's going to be for like the enthusiasts and the fans and the people who love fantasy and sci-fi and horror and all these kinds of things. What is it that you love about all these different genres?
I think it's the people behind them, and not just in terms of the characters, but the writers as well. And I think you can gain a lot from how an author sees the world through their characters. Now, obviously, there is always going to be a distinction between the character and the author. So, not every viewpoint of the character is the viewpoint of the author. When you've got someone that's going out committing horrible, grisly murders, you don't really want to think that that's the author's perspective. But to me, understanding the person behind building that character and why they want to put across those messages is really fascinating. So I enjoy learning about like the psychology of things, the how society works, how people interact with each other. Probably why I wanted to put on an event. It's actually it's a social experiment. This whole thing, that's what it actually is. Um, but yeah, I think the different genres often approach the same dilemmas, the same problems, the same, really basic level human interactions that we all have, but they just do it through a different frame or through a different lens. So yeah, I just find that fascinating. And I think, you could give the exact same problem, let's just say, the trope of a love triangle, and you can give it to a fantasy author, you can give it to a horror author, you can give it to a literary author, you can give it to a genre author, and they will all have a completely unique way of framing it and putting it into their work. And I think it's exciting to see, it's interesting to see. And yeah, I think hopefully that answers the question, because I feel like I've digressed a little there.
It's great. I feel like for sci-fi authors, all you have to do is add in space to the end of everything, and you already have it done. It's like it's the easy work. In terms of the sort of what made you want to write fantasy, did you think that sort of going into a fantasy world in some ways allows you to address aspects of humanity in ways that are sort of more freeing in a way?
I think absolutely it does. I don't think that that is the motivation or the end goal for every author. I think that sometimes we can put too much into what a story means. Sometimes a story can just be entertaining. Sometimes it can just be dragons because dragons are cool. There's no hidden message or agenda to it. It is what it is. But I do think fantasy gives that opportunity and that avenue to explore those things. I think it allows authors to build worlds in which they can ask questions, but also put in the answers that either they think are more realistic or more believable, or that they would like to see, rather than the answers that we get. Because the world is what the world is, and we can't always change the outcomes of things. We can't always change the answers. But in a book, you can do that. You can make the world better. You can make the world worse. I mean, we all like being tiny little gods, let's be honest.
I was chatting to an author recently. I think it was Andrea Hairston, and she put it brilliantly. It's a phrase that I will forever remember. She said, "When we write speculative fiction, we're putting on a dress rehearsal for the future." And I thought that was such a cool way of thinking about it. That we're not making predictions; we're kind of looking at it and saying, if the world was like this, what would happen? And then giving people the chance of saying, well, is that something that you want in the world or not? And I think that's a great way of looking at it. But one of the things that I am intrigued by is what do dragons mean to you, Holly? Because obviously to me, dragons are cool, but as someone who looks for meaning in work, like what is a dragon? Is it your mother? Is it your mother-in-law? Like what is your what's your
Um,
take on what dragon is?
I mean, I would just say first of all that both my mother and my mother-in-law are fabulous. I do love them very much. They're definitely not dragons. I can think of a few people in my life who might be described that way, but we will mention no names. What do dragons mean to me? That's a great question, actually. I mean, I love dragons. I get very emotional about dragons in films and books and things like that. Um, I think for me, dragons represent the same thing in fantasy as, mountains do in the real world. It's something that is very humbling, and I think that's the power of it. It's something that is all powerful, all consuming, unbeatable, ancient, natural, primal. And whether people use that, as a good thing or, a vessel of evil in their stories, it's different things to different people, but that kind of core idea of something that is so much bigger than ourselves, something that is so much more powerful than ourselves, and needs to be respected and feared and awed, it's just really cool. Let's be honest, dragons are really cool. That's the core of it.
Yes. I think that in some ways this event could also be described like that, like something that's like bigger than ourselves, that's going to be awesome and just super powerful and amazing. I think that if this event were a creature, it would be a dragon, right?
I'd like to think so. At the moment, it's like a baby dragon, so it's like the how was it How to Train Your Dragon at the
Yeah.
moment. It's kind of small and untrained, but over the next few weeks, it will grow into a mighty, fearsome, awe-inspiring beast. I think that's a
Yes.
great analogy.
Yes, that should be like on the slogan. It's like this: the event is a mighty, fearsome, awe-inspiring beast of an event. That's great. Put it on the
Absolutely.
website. Um, you with the Hallows, you wrote a like noir detective mystery fantasy book. How similar, or are there similarities between putting together the fantasy and sci-fi spotlight event and putting together a really complicated mystery to solve in a fantasy world? Are there like similarities between those two things, do you think?
I think there's similarities in the sense that you go through different phases. You know, you start with the, oh, I've got a great idea. Then you go into the, oh God, what the hell am I doing phase. Then there's the, I've no idea what's going on phase. And then you get to the, oh, actually, okay, yeah, I'm starting to see how this comes together now phase. Um, but no, I don't know that there's necessarily similarities in it. I think writing a book, I mean, regardless of what sort of book it is, there's definitely elements of organization. And I think the reaching out and leaning on the support and network of the writing community is a big part of that. And that kind of does run parallel with how I've done the event. So, you know, talking to people, throwing ideas around, getting that initial sounding board has been a big part of how the event has been structured. So, certainly in that aspect, I think, yeah, there are not necessarily similarities, but definitely things I think that run parallel.
Yeah, because it is very much a community that we're in, isn't it? And it's going to be a community event. So if you're in the community, either the writing community, the reading community, or the Shropshire, Shrewsbury community, or Shrewsbury for all the Salopians who are listening, then come on down to the Nerdy Cafe, 29th of September. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be a mighty, ferocious, awe-inspiring beast of an event. Holly, thank you so much for joining me. And if anybody's been listening to this and they think, oh, I want to read these books that Holly's written, or I want to, find out more or interact and ask questions and that kind of thing, where can they find you?
Best place to find me is probably on Twitter because I am on there way too much for my own good. So people can follow me on there. They can also feel free to send me questions at the Fantasy and Sci-Fi Spotlight Twitter as well. I have a website which is hltinsley.writes.co.uk. And yeah, it would be amazing to see loads of people there. It would be amazing to do another event in kind of maybe next year as well. So people just keep an eye out. And if they want to get involved, drop me a line, let me know. And if we can't make it happen for you this year, because obviously the agenda is a little tight now, we can definitely put you on a list for future events and anything that happens next year as well.
Fantastic. So, if yeah, all the best with the rest of the preparations and everything. And if I don't see you before, then I will see you on the 29th of September. And the same is true for anybody else who's watching this who comes. But yeah, it's been such a pleasure to meet you, Holly. And thank you for your time today and for being with us.
Oh, no worries. Thank you very much for having me. And I look forward to dueling with you with swords in September.
On guard.